Those are good claps.
Yeah, we're good claps. Welcome, everybody, to the Train of Thought YouTube channel. My name is Tucker, and this is my girlfriend, Emma. Typically, we do podcasts. I gotta restart that.
Typically doobie-doo.
This is all going in it, by the way.
No, it's
It
not.
is. Welcome, everybody, to the Train of Thought YouTube channel. My name is Tucker. This is my girlfriend, Emma. Typically, we do podcast type stuff, and a couple of those videos are up on the channel, but we also occasionally want to look further into some of the things that are happening in a given Survivor episode. And this week, we want to talk about kind of the growing feud between Rob and Sandra, who are people that we thought maybe could potentially work together this season based off their experience at Island of the Idols. And that is really where this idea begins, and that is the fact that Sandra is already very upset with Rob simply because she thinks that he lied to her about being on the season. And the question is whether she is just making this up or if he actually did lie to her, and if that matters.
Yeah. So both of us, I mean, from the beginning, we're like, oh, Sandra's using this as gameplay. Rob didn't do anything, but everybody knew he was a threat going in, so it was easy to just make up a story that made him sound bad. I can't imagine Rob necessarily saying, I'm never playing again, which is the word she uses, and maybe being like, oh, I don't know when I'm gonna play again, or something like kind of backhanded that sounds like he might not, but leaving it open for him to be like, oh, I didn't lie.
Right.
So I definitely think it's more so a gameplay than an actual
I think
truth.
everything at this point, especially in this season, is gameplay, right? Like, I don't think there's ever a decision that people are making that isn't going to affect the game. And for those two players specifically, they're going to focus on making sure it's a positive for them. Having looked into it a little bit, the real issue in terms of if you think he lied or not that that really matters, to be honest, because people lie in the season all the time. But she was especially hurt because she felt like he misled her, which is, again, is the whole point of the game. The issue is whether she asked directly, hey, you're going to be on the season? And he was like, no, I'm not. Because I don't think that that's what happened, but I think that's the part she's making up. I'm sure they had conversations about it. There's no way they didn't. And from things that I've read, season 40 began like 10 days after Idols finished up in terms of the finale. So they had to have both known that they would have been on. And he has basically come out and said, like, yeah, I'm not going to tell her that I'm going to be on the season because I would give her an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, I'm surprised Sandra would even want to work with Rob and, like, feel betrayed by that. Because they're both huge threats. You don't want to put them together, especially after spending 39 days on an island. You would think she was, like, glad to not be with Rob and not be on the same tribe as him and not even know that he was playing. Because, yeah, it works in her, like, strategy of being like, well, I didn't know he was going to be here. We didn't talk strategy on Island of the Idols. But, like, instead, she's, like, huffing and puffing about it and targeting Amber as well because of it.
Right.
When really, I feel like it plays in her favor to, like, not have known and stuff like that, because then people aren't looking at them like the new Jeremy and Natalie.
Right.
They're just like, oh, yeah, they were there on that season. That's
really why this is interesting and why we're talking about it. Is not we're not really concerned with whether he actually lied, but it's how it's impacting this season already, because this first episode was really about the strong relationships that people have already, whether they played together or not, whatever the case may be, whether it's the Poker Alliance or you talk about Natalie and Jeremy, Natalie being voted off first largely because of her connection to Jeremy, and then the Marianos are just a constant threat because of who they are, but also because they have such a strong connection, because they're married. And that got extended to Sandra feeling betrayed, and she said she just gets irritated when she sees Amber. Now, whether that's true or not, and she's just playing it up, who knows? You always have to take these things with a grain of salt. Yeah. But that's also what it's seemingly setting up for episode 2, is this growing feud between those two who, again, we talked about this in the podcast this week, you thought potentially they could work together coming into the season, having spent that time together, and seemingly being really cordial and enjoying themselves, at least on camera.
They were great friends.
And now it's just a complete opposite.
Yeah, I mean, we see in the season, or not season preview, but the next episode preview that Rob immediately is like, it had to be Sandra. She had to orchestrate.
Which is a good assumption to be, it makes sense.
Sandra's probably going to orchestrate 90% of the
If she stuck around, it's because she got someone out. Like, it's someone that wasn't her, which is her mentality.
But at the same time, like, I just don't, from the moment she stepped on the beach, like, one of her first interviews was, I'm betrayed that Rob didn't tell me. It
felt really quick.
Yeah, she was instantly annoyed. Also makes me think, like, how did she not know? I want to say in the season finale of Island of the Idols, Jeff said...
She didn't find out on the beach, basically.
No, she didn't find out on the beach.
Right.
She found out at the season finale. But, like, okay, that gave you... If there's 10 days between the season finale and the season premiere, that gave you 10 days to be like, Rob, what the heck?
Right.
And she didn't do that just to come on the beach and be all huffy and puffy. So I really don't understand like her side of it, except for the fact like, yeah, that kind of stinks. But look at the bright side. You don't have a dual alliance and you don't have a bigger target on your back.
Of them potentially working together.
Yeah, right. On top of you're a 2-time winner.
Yeah, and that is kind of the issue here with me that I initially was like, there's no way that this is true the way that she's telling the story, because it seems like she came on the beach with the idea in mind. The first thing I'm doing if I feel like I'm in trouble in a vote is bringing up the fact that I don't trust the Marianos and he lied to me and I feel betrayed. Because Sarah was really interested at the water well with her and Yul, and Sarah, she was really like, wait, he actually said that? And it was honestly a way for her to get some of the focus on Amber through Rob, just continually showing how she doesn't feel like he's trustworthy, which if they've watched previous seasons, they should be terrified of him regardless. But she came in, like you talked about a little bit in the podcast, like she came in ready, she came in prepared. And that's why I felt like there's no way it went down like that. And she just asked him directly and he lied, because she came in with that in her back pocket. She thought about it before she came on.
The only problem with her making this as big of a deal as she is like now that Amber's out, she just sits around and waits until the merge.
Right.
Like, what does it matter? You got Amber out, which you probably could have gotten her out first vote anyways without bringing up the whole dishonest
which maybe
thing.
lends credence to the fact that she does actually feel betrayed, because maybe she didn't need to use it, and the fact that she's saying it, maybe like that could be part of the argument for it being real.
Maybe. Ultimately, I just don't think it's really valid, because now it's just showing more about Sandra. Like, I'm not going to want to work with her because I know, like, if I misstep, she's going to go around and...
It's the case with a lot of these people. The leash is very, very short. But, yeah, I think to wrap it up, at the end of the day, whether he actually lied is kind of irrelevant in the scope of Survivor. Like, that's just how things work. It's just kind of... The important thing is how it's going to impact things moving forward, and it clearly impacted the first vote. And I think the second episode here, this coming Wednesday, is a lot of it's going to be focused on this Rob-Sandra chaos and the issues they're having with each other, and then a potential, if there's a switch or a merge or whatever down the road and they're both there, how that's going to play out. That's going to be one of the bigger storylines for sure. Anyway, so yeah, really quickly before we end the video, please be sure to check out the podcast either on iTunes or on the YouTube channel here, whichever is easiest for you, and we're going to be on Spotify soon as well. So we're trying to do one of these at least once or twice a week about the episode.
Yeah, depending on what happens in an episode, maybe once, maybe twice, but definitely kind of see us around the weekend time frame.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like the podcast stuff, we get into a lot of stuff generally, but this kind of allows us to get into some bigger stuff more specifically. So yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks.